guys, welcome back to Let's Create with Alex Blake. I'm your host, Alex Blake, and today we are getting to chat with a little Q&A. So I'm pumped for today, per usual, because today I get to kind of like chat with you guys a little bit versus like chatting at you guys. You know what I mean? Like with a podcast, I'm just kind of like talking a lot, which of course I love. Like I can talk to a brick wall. I'm sure you guys know that by now. But at the same time, I feel like it's fun when we have like a submission episode because we just get to like hang out a little bit more. I get to hear your voices a little bit more and we have more of a conversation. So I'm excited about today. I think it's going to be fun. This is my first time recording the podcast at my desk. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. I just got this new desk. Wait, let me put my leg down. I've got my blanket per usual, but let me see if you can see it a little bit more. So it has like some like cane. I think that's what it's called. Like it's like a natural wood colored cane, gold knobs. So cute. And then right now I just have like a temporary random photo thing. It's like wall decor. I think it's originally from Target, but honestly guys, I found it at Goodwill. So it was a good Goodwill find. But yeah, it usually goes in our bedroom, but I stuck it like on the desk for now because I'm not really sure what I want behind my new desk yet. So I'm thinking, I don't know. You guys can let me know what you think. Maybe just drop it down in the comments or like DM me on Instagram at Alex Blake Photography and let me know what you think I should put in the like background. I also have like a ladder right here. Again, not really sure that it's staying, but it's here for now. So we'll see what I end up with. But I was kind of thinking for like above my desk that maybe I'll do some type of like pin board or bulletin board. I want to stick with like the natural wood, whatever I do. But I was thinking it'd be fun to like print off some of my photos from the beach because you guys know I'm going for like the coastal theme in here. So I thought it would be kind of fun. Let me know. I could do like beach photos on the pin board and maybe like a film strip on there or like a paint strip. Did you just see what happened? Okay, if you're watching on YouTube, Bear just laid below me and literally moved my chair. It's like a swivel chair and he pushed me to the side. It's fine. He's just chilling now. We're good. Anyway, though, yeah, I think it would be cute to do a little pin board. So let me know what you think. If I do that, I'll get like cute pins, you know, like maybe from Amazon. I found like these like wooden ones that were really cute. But let me know if you have any other ideas because honestly, I'm not like sold on anything. But I definitely want to like print some work out. I'm not the best person at printing out my own work like ever. Zach is usually the one who does. Like when we go on a trip. Have you guys ever heard of like small woods before? It's like a wood frame, but they also like print photos on wood. So we have a couple of those, but again, like Zach is the one who gets it. I've never even gotten them before. So, which is terrible because I'm a photographer and I should look at my work in print, but I'm just like not very good at that. So 'tis the season of changing that. 'Tis the season of printing out our work, guys. Let's do it. Let's do it together. So we did just get some new small woods from our trip to Italy. So that's fun. And then we have some from back, like way back when, like 5 years ago when we went on our honeymoon in Greece. So I think like every international trip that we go on, we want to try to do some prints like that. But I think it'd be fun to even have like prints in my office area of like Folly Beach or Isle of Palms, like the beaches that are like close that I shoot at all the time. So I'll keep you guys updated. But yeah, that's my random life update on my office. But a couple other life updates before we get into the little Q&A situation. Oh my gosh, guys. Okay, so you guys know I wrote down all of my notes per usual, but I wrote them down and I just read what my second life update was. This is crazy. So last week, to just like sum it all up, last week I told you guys how when Zach and I were surfing, we saw a shark, okay? Well, this week when we were surfing, this is terrible, but one of my friends, his name is Adam. If you went to photo camp, you got to meet Adam. Anyway, Adam had like a surfing accident. So that was insane. I think like, I don't know what's happening, but I don't know if I'm going to be like a surfer girl anymore because this is crazy. One week I see a shark. The next week my friend has a bloody face from surfing. So that was my last time going out. I don't know if I can do it anymore, guys. I might be calling it off. No, I'm just kidding. I actually like still want to go out and everything, but it was wild. So let me tell you the story. So me and my friend Adam, my friend Jaden, and Zach went sunrise surfing. We went surfing at sunrise on last Saturday. And we got there and it was like so pretty and everything. But me and Jaden wanted to catch up because we hadn't seen each other in a while. So we were just like hanging out and talking on the sand. The guys were like already surfing and they had like a couple waves that they were able to get and everything. And then me and Jaden are like, okay, it's time to go out. Let's go. And it was a crazy current that day. So it was like, there's about to be a hurricane here. So it's very cozy today because it's like pouring outside. But because of that, it made like the waves and the current a little bit like more strong and a little choppier and stuff like that. So we walked down a little bit before getting in the water. And so we'd gotten down there. And when we turned, we saw that Adam was like running out of the water. And Jaden was like, oh, maybe he got stung by a jellyfish or something. Should we go check on him? And I'm like, no, Zach will be with him. Like if something were wrong, like Zach would be out of the water too. And Zach was like still surfing. So we're like, everything's fine. Well, little did we know that was a terrible idea to just say everything is fine. If you ever see somebody getting out of the ocean while surfing and sprinting out, go check on them because they're not okay. So we were like, yeah, everything's fine. And we get in the water and we like paddle out and like, I mean, it takes a while to like paddle out to your spot. So we're like paddling out and everything, huffing and puffing, mostly me. Jaden was fine, but I'm like dying. My arms are so tired. No, I'm just kidding. So we sit down on our boards. We finally get out there and we look back and Zach was calling us in and he looked like pretty panicked. So he's like calling us in with like urgency and we're like, oh frick, there's a shark, and I just seen the shark, guys. So I'm like, oh no, it's happening. The shark is about to eat me. So yeah, it wasn't a shark, thank goodness, but we didn't know that when we were like paddling back in. We're like, oh my gosh, we got to really be quick because you can't hear what Zach is saying when you're all the way out there. You just know like he's urgently calling us in. And when we get back in, thankfully it wasn't a shark, but poor Adam was really struggling and he's like, hey, we need to take Adam to the emergency room right now. So that was insane. But basically when he'd gotten a wave and then he jumped off of it just like normal. And Adam is like really good at surfing. So this is like, he's grown up surfing. This is like completely normal for him. But he jumped off the wave. And when he did, he went like kind of head first. And somehow he hit like a rock or a really hard part of the ground. We don't really know. But thankfully he didn't black out, but he literally hit it, like he hit his head on the rock or whatever it was. And it took like what looked like a chunk out of his head. So when I saw him on the beach, like, sorry if you're like super squeamish, I'm so sorry, you can skip forward on this part, but literally there was just like blood covering his face. So that was terrifying coming out of the water and seeing your friend like that. But it was insane, guys, like total God thing, because thankfully he didn't have an actual like, oh, did you guys just hear Bear bark? Sorry if you did. Zach just got home, so I think Bear is like, wait, my dad's here. So sorry if he barked. Okay, let me go back to my story though. So thankfully, it didn't take an actual chunk out of his head. It literally somehow just skimmed his hair. So his hair came off and that's it. So he had this like, and obviously he was bleeding. So like it was a little bit of his like skin and everything. And like it does not look good. But somehow he doesn't have a concussion. We have no idea how. And like it wasn't worse than it is, which is insane. He sprained his neck. He chipped 7 teeth. 7 of his teeth. So now he has like $3,000 or something worth of dental work. Insane. But thankfully he's okay. So that's really good. And then we brought him Starbucks and Chick-fil-A and we had a picnic in the hospital parking lot. But that was a crazy sunrise surf. That happened at like 7 a.m. Like that was a crazy Saturday morning. So that's like a big life update that my friend had a surfing accident. That was my first time seeing anything like that while surfing. And I'm not going to lie, it definitely freaked me out. But I'll keep you guys updated on my surfing adventure. Like I said, last week I saw a shark. This week this happens. I don't know what's next. Hopefully everything will be okay. I don't know. And then my last life update. This is also kind of crazy. My week was a little nuts this week, guys, but I had a travel senior shoot and those are always super fun. So I had a shoot in Hilton Head, South Carolina, which is like 2.5 hours away from me. So it's not super far, but Zach and I were planning on making like a little vacation out of it because it's a super nice town. So we had rented like a little resort hotel and we were going to like stay there. We were so excited. We were going to like swim around in the pool. It was oceanfront. Like it was so nice. They do like yoga on the beach in the mornings at this hotel. And yeah, it was going to be awesome. But like I said, the hurricane. So the hurricane was out to get me this week, okay? But this was an interesting thing just to think about. If you guys do ever like travel sessions, having something like this where like the weather fully prevented you from having a shoot. It was supposed to be on Tuesday, and that's like when the day of the hurricane, supposed to hit Hilton Head. So I had to end up like switching the date, which was super interesting. And it works out okay, but it's also like hard because she was on vacation and obviously I was coming in. So it was like, it's now or never for this session. So the first half of the session was straight up raining outside. And this is not one of those sessions where it's like, oh, so fun, wild, fun, free, adventurous couples session in the rain. Like it wasn't that. These are her senior photos and it was a little bit more like structured. It wasn't quite her style to do that. And so it was like, okay, this is what we're working with, guys. And so she had like, her dad was holding an umbrella over her. And then I would like get her in the pose and then be like, okay, 3, 2, 1, umbrella move. And then her dad would like pull the umbrella away and snap a couple shots and then pull the umbrella right back so that her hair didn't get soaked. But that was interesting. And then thankfully it didn't rain on the beach. So we were able to get like really good pictures for her on the beach. But she was super smart, guys. If you guys have seniors or really any clients where you're in like a humid place and then you have 2 locations, she was so smart. She had her parents driving. She curled her hair on the way to the second session, which like is slightly terrifying that you have like a hot thing in your hand while driving. I don't know. I mean, she wasn't driving, but like her parents were. But she curled her hair before the second session because she's like, yeah, my hair and the humidity don't mix. So I thought that was really smart. Maybe that's something that you can, I don't know, make a part of your process. Like before you get to your second session or before you get to your second location, curl your hair. Actually, maybe don't do that. I don't know if you want the liability of telling someone to curl their hair while driving in a car, you know, that like, ooh, if they stop at a stoplight and the curling iron like hits them. That could be bad. But yeah, so those are my life updates. Did a session in Hilton Head, had a surfing accident. Well, I didn't, but my friend had a surfing accident and I got a new desk. So it's a great week, you know? Some craziness in there, but overall, I'm thankful that Adam is okay. I'm thankful I got the Hilton Head session out of the way, and I'm thankful for my new desk. So with all of that being said, let's move on to our little Q&A time. So I told you guys this last week, but I do a lot on my Instagram story for the podcast. So if you guys want to be involved in like what I chat about for the podcast, make sure you go follow me and check out my stories every so often because like I said, on Alex Blake Photography, I'll like put question boxes on there or I'll say like, hey, vote for what you want me to talk about, you know? So if you want your say into that, like make sure you go follow me and go check it out. But for the Q&A, here's what we got. Number 1, best strategy for marketing to get bookings. What is the best strategy for marketing to get bookings? Do you run ads or are you word of mouth? So, okay, for me personally, the best way that I've been able to get bookings is through social media. And I think like most of us, you know, kind of know that, but I think that it's the strategy behind social media that makes social media work. I think a lot of the time as photographers, we can really be annoyed with the algorithm. And sometimes the algorithm deserves our annoyance, okay? But also we need to make social media work for us. So I took notes on all of the questions that I'm going to talk about. I kind of picked and chose the best ones that I felt like you guys would want. And this one I felt like was really good because I do think that I have a pretty good strategy when it comes to thinking about social media. So I wanted to share it with you. So for me, there's kind of 3 aspects of Instagram specifically. So that's what we'll talk about. There's the Reels aspect, there's posts, and there's stories. So for Reels, I want us to think about Reels as a way of getting more exposure for our business. So I know in this question, you talked about like, do you run ads or are you word of mouth? I feel like both, but I don't run ads. And the reason why I say both, even though I don't run ads, is because I think Reels are like free ads. Like what you're sharing on Reels, if you use them well, they act as ads for your business. And what we want to be careful of is not feeling salesy on them, because a lot of the times our Reels are reaching more than just our audience. So our Reels are pushed out to people who are not our followers, which is really cool because it's mainly SEO based. And so you're able to pick and choose based on the wordings that, like the words that you choose to use, the vocabulary that you're using. That is who your reel is being pushed out to, even just like the kind of humor that you're using or what you're talking about. Like people who don't follow you get to see that. They're interacting with your brand, they're interacting with your personality, with your work. And it's a really cool free tool for us to be able to get more engaging people. Not more engaging, I guess, just to get more people to know our businesses or to know about our businesses. So for Reels, we want to like I said, not be salesy. We want to kind of like represent our brand well and build friendships with it. So I think like for me, I'm not going to do a reel that says like 25% off this week if you book. I'm not going to put that in a reel, because the people that are seeing that have no idea who I am. And so there's no relationship that's built. You want to build relationships with Reels, bring people in, and then you have that audience base. And that's where you get followers, right? Is through bringing people in with Reels. So I feel like Reels, like I said, are kind of like a free form of ads. And then for posts is where you're going to show your work. Posts is where you show like why people should book you. It's not telling them why they should book you. It's showing them. So this is where I'm going to post. For me, I do a lot of seniors, right? So I'm going to post senior photos in my reel or in my posts so that they can see the work that I'm offering them. And that's because a lot of the time Instagram is pushing out a lot of posts right now, but a lot of the time it's not being pushed to non-followers. Even if you use social, like SEO and you're using like keywords in that way, sure, they might see them, but really it's not as many as what they would see with a reel. So these are things that are going out. These posts are going out to your followers. You're basically selling to your followers. But again, we don't want to sell with our words with these posts. We want to sell with like showcasing what we can do. So that's what a post does. And then for stories is where we engage with our audience. So stories is where we're building even more of a friendship, even more of a relationship with them. It's where we're chatting one-on-one with them in a way. So it's where we can put a poll or we can put a question box, kind of like I did for these Q&As, and then respond to them right then and there. Stories, I think you can be the most bold in being salesy, because the people who are interacting with your stories are the people that have the most relationship with you. These are people that are hearing you talk day in and day out. They're hearing and seeing things about your brand that nobody else is, because they're engaging in what feels like a smaller environment, if that makes sense. Because not everybody watches your stories, right? It's not every single follower. That would be awesome. But it's not every single follower that engages with your stories. But those who do, you can be a little bit more bold in it. And that's where, like, if you did want to run a discount or something like that, you could do that in a story and it will go a lot better than if you do it in a post or in a reel. So I hope that makes sense as far as like, you know, marketing within social media, but that's what has been working for me. And that's been really, really good. Personally, I've never actually worked with ads before, at least on social media. So I will say, like, my friend Cassidy has a podcast, you know, it's called Oh Shoot. I've talked about that before. For when I launched Photo Camp, I did run ads through her podcast because she has a big reach, but I wanted to do it specifically through her podcast that felt relational with Cassidy, rather than running ads on social media to random accounts who don't know me. Because my brand is so personal, I want to market in a personal way. So I hope that makes sense. I also am word of mouth, just to answer like your last question too. But I think everybody should be word of mouth too. I think, yes, it's partially social media and however else you want to brand yourself, but also you should always, always, always represent your business really, really well wherever you go so that you can be word of mouth. Okay. I feel like I just really chatted your ear off on that first question. Here we go. Second question. The second question, I actually put two because there were a couple that like were kind of similar. So it's what is the best thing that you did for your business when relocating? And then the other one says advice for moving to a new state and making friends / doing photography. So the reason I put these two together is obviously because it was about relocating. It was about moving to a new state. But it was partially about like, okay, what's the best thing you did for your business doing photography, right? But also about making friends. And you guys know I'm all about like community. So I think this is such a great question for me because I think God was just really, really kind when I was moving to Charleston. But I also think with our friendships, but I also think like a lot of that had to do with intentionality too. So that's kind of what I said, like when in my notes, I just put like network and make friends everywhere I go. So I think like when I first moved, I was so intentional about everywhere I went. I was networking, but it wasn't networking just to like build my business. I also needed friends, guys. Like I moved to a new place, didn't know a soul. You know, like I didn't know anybody. And so I wasn't doing anything. And I was so bored out of my mind because I didn't have any friends. And so I wanted to like immediately make friends. And also like for me and Zach too, we moved here very much on purpose because we also moved here to start a church. And so we moved here to start a church, not knowing anyone, having 0 friends. So like the intentionality came from like, okay, we want to like tell people about Jesus. We want to start a church. So that's a number 1 thing for us. Also, I need to make money and build my business. So that's number 2. And then number 3, we just need community in our own lives. So we need to be intentional about everywhere we go. A couple places or a couple things that like I specifically did with that was like, I chose to not edit at home for a long time in my business. It was like months of, okay, instead of editing in bed like I normally like to do or on the couch and watching Netflix, I'm going to go to a coffee shop. I am going to go to the same coffee shop so that I can hopefully meet the barista, so that I can hopefully meet the people around me. We have like a common work area in our apartment complex. I worked there a lot and got to know the people that run our apartment complex. And actually, that's a great example now that I'm like thinking about it, because I actually now work with the apartment complex, not necessarily like our apartment complex, but I work with like the property manager, which is a national company. And I work with them because I originally got to know the people that run our apartment complex that's under their umbrella. So that's a great example of where like working in a public space and forcing myself to talk to people actually paid off in the long run. And it took it a while to pay off in the long run, but like here we are where now I have contracts with them. I'm going to Charlotte, North Carolina in like a month, I guess. Maybe a little bit more than a month. But anyway, with them, because I originally, when we first moved, got to know those people. So I think it's super important to be in public spaces as much as you can when you first move, and that's going to help you a lot. But I also think like, and I've said this word a lot just in this question, but being really intentional, not allowing yourself to be shy. And that's really hard if you're shy or if you're an introvert. And I see that, and I know that I have lots of friends who are introverts and who like, if you tell them to go up and talk to somebody, they will run away and cry. And if that is you and you're moving to a new state, I really, really, really sympathize with you in that. And I feel for you. But I also want to like pull you up and say it won't be forever that you have to do this. But you need to force yourself when you first move to like go and talk to people even when you don't want to. So if you're sitting next to someone, it doesn't have to be weird, but if you're sitting next to someone, just choose to introduce yourself and then see where the conversation goes from there. But I also know that it can be really scary if you're not an extrovert. So yeah, so just work your way into it, you know, don't do it all the time everywhere you go because that'll freak you out. But like choose, okay, I'm going to this workout class and I'm going to introduce myself to one person. Like set a goal for yourself in that way. But yeah, that's, I mean, how I made like my best friends too. So it's not just with like photography and clients and building the church, but it was also like, well, I guess it is building the church too for us. But the first friend that I made here in Charleston, I met her at a yoga class, and I told myself, I literally said, I'm going to introduce myself to somebody tonight. Like, I went with intention, and she just happened to be sitting next to me, and now she's my best friend. So that is like, and her whole family is like my friend too. So, it's cool looking back and seeing like those little things that you could have just walked in and been very mundane with. Like, I could have just gone to that yoga class and then headed out, like had a great little stretch and then called it a day, but I didn't. And the other thing that I said on there too, again, this is like a practical thing, but like following up with people immediately instead of waiting, I think is really important, because I don't know if you guys have ever had this before, but like I will like chat with people and be like, oh my gosh, we should totally hang out. Nice to meet you. Let me get your number. And then never do anything with it. And then like time goes by and it feels awkward. I don't know if you felt that way or not, but like sometimes you'll like meet someone and then it's like, oh, I could have hung out with them, but now it's been 3 months and like I don't even know if they remember me, like I don't know if that's just me, but that's happened to me. But something that I really forced myself to do, and even with the friend I was just talking about that I met at yoga, I texted her the next night because I didn't have anything to do. I had just moved here. I had no clients. I had no friends. So I was like, hey, would you want to go on a double date with me and Zach? And it was like the next day. And from there, I've seen her definitely every week, if not multiple days, So it's kind of cool that like, you have the moment of meeting them, but then right away you're like you're pushing yourself and having the initiative and the drive to immediately do something about it and immediately make a new friend. So yeah, I think the best thing that I did for my business was to like network and to just like push myself to meet people. But I also think like that's how you meet friends too. So I hear that question a lot of like, how do I make friends as an adult? And I think that is everything I just said is applicable to that too, if that maybe is a season that you're struggling in. But yeah, I'm excited for whoever asked this though. I'm excited for you guys to move to a new state. So many people actually asked about that. So I guess that means I need to have a podcast episode on it, like relocating or moving to a new city. I'll keep you guys updated. Okay, next one. This one's a little bit longer. I'm a beginner and I've been having trouble coming up with a name for my business. Can you talk about if I should do a name of my business or if I call it after my own name, like how you do Alex Blake, if you know what I mean? Okay. So basically, I think this person is asking like, should I do a name like, I don't know, shooting photography versus like Alex Blake photography? So I think this is a great question. And I think honestly, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but I feel like people get a bad rep when they're not using their name these days. And I disagree with that. That's my hot take. I think some people can use their names. Obviously, I do, right? Like Alex Blake Photography, LLC. That's my business name. And I love that it is. But I also have really, really good friends. Nate and Sutton is their name. If you guys follow them, they are also like YouTubers and stuff too. You guys should look them up. But they are photographers. They're wedding photographers, and they have been for a while. And they have a business that's not under their names. So it's not Nate and Sutton as photographers, and they do very, very well with it. So the thing I would say on this question is like, you need to define what your goal is in your business and then move from there. So if your goal is to have like a photography empire and like have photographers who you send out to different weddings, and eventually maybe you even sell your business or hand your business off, and you're creating like, I don't know, not that like my business isn't a business, because it clearly is, but like when you think about like a family company, you know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, like I have friends who have an HVAC company and he passed it down to the person who owns it now. Like the dad passed it down and then could pass it down again. Like when you're building an empire kind of company that changes a region, you're not going to call it always by your name, right? Because then you're building the brand around yourself versus around the product or the service. So I think if that is something that you're wanting to do, then you should call it something like shooting photography or whatever it is that you want to call it. But I think if you are wanting it to the brand to be more around your personality, then that's when you call it by your name. So for me, it makes sense because I love my job in photography and I love what I get to do, but I'm just like chilling. I just want to be branded as myself. And then like whatever season of life I can go into, I can pivot my business in that way. And I think that's really cool. Like I think it'll be one day really cool when I'm a mom to see how my business might pivot with that. And I've talked about that a little bit on the podcast too, with that one person on TikTok and Instagram. I'm going to mess up her name, but Kylie Kadich, I think is how you pronounce her last name. But I followed her for years and she started out as a photographer and now she makes all of her money doing videos that are like home renovation videos and DIY videos and like so cool. But she pivoted really, really well because her brand was under her name. So again, it just depends on the goals for your business. And I think it's really important to like not get stuck in those goals. Like it's okay to not know everything going into your business. I for sure didn't, like I never even thought I was going to be full-time and here we are. And I have a podcast, 4 other photographers. Like who knew? So there's a way of life surprising us. But at the same time, I think it is more like beneficial if you can have like a structure of what you're going after and then a structure of how to get there, if that makes sense. So look at your goals and then pick your name from there. It'll be great. Proud of you. Excited for you. I love that you're a beginner photographer and that you're already thinking this way. It's great. Okay, next question. Ooh, this one's a big one. How do you push through a season of burnout? I hate that. Like I hate that word, burnout, even just thinking about it. So I guess first off, I just want to say like, I'm sorry that you're in a season of burnout if you're asking this from that place, because burnout can feel so stifling, I guess, and heavy, and yeah, just feels like a rainy day. I'm like looking out the window, it is a rainy day, and that's kind of how burnout feels. It feels like you're never going to get past it, but you will. So I hope that even just hearing these words of like someone sitting in it with you who's been there kind of gives you a little bit of hope too. But I do think I wrote down a couple of things. I think if you're not in a season of burnout, something that you can do is be preventative with it. Like if you're not in a season of burnout, I wrote down this like building healthy rhythms is really important, and then irreducible minimums. So if you haven't heard that term before, it's one my pastor actually uses all the time, and he talked to me about it in a season of burnout myself. So been there. Like you're not alone in it. Yeah, irreducible minimums was the phrase that he used. And it was really pretty life-changing for both Zach and I when we started thinking about this in our marriage and personally, individually. And basically it's thinking about the rhythms in your life that are like irreducible. So those are the things that like you cannot take away from your schedule or else you will not be a healthy person. So pick 2, 3, 4, like it depends on who you are, right? But like if you take this away, you will not be healthy. Therefore, whatever you do in any season, those things have to be a part of your schedule and your rhythm. So for me, one of those things is like journaling and reading my Bible in the morning. When I journal, I'm praying. So like that is an irreducible minimum for me. I need to have that time at least 4 times a week. And if I don't have that, then I'm not going to be my most healthy version of myself. And even with 4 times a week, I'm probably not going to be my most healthy version of myself. But like, I don't want that to ever go away. And it doesn't mean it has to be in the mornings. I guess I said mornings, but I just mean like at some point throughout my day, I've got to have time with Jesus. And that's an irreducible minimum in my life. Okay. But like, I also choose in my schedule to have 3 photo shoots a week most of the time. That is not an irreducible minimum. Like that is something that can ebb and flow depending on my season, my life stage. It's not something that I'm not going to, or that I'm going to like put in stone all the time. That is not an irreducible minimum for me. So I hope that you understand like what I'm saying with it, because I know it's kind of a funky phrase, but like what are the things that make you tick? Like what are the things that make you work as a human? And those are the things you do not ever take away from your schedule. So I want you guys to think about that this week. If you are really, if you're in any season, if that's not something that you've thought about before, because like I said, if you're not in a season of burnout, helping you have those it'll help you have those healthy rhythms to be able to sustain through seasons of feeling weary and of feeling tired. Like we can be proactively combating it, and that's really, really important. And I've seen those things since I've begun building those healthier rhythms into my life. I've seen that be like really game changing for me, even in seasons where I have felt tired and maybe more on the verge of burnout. I don't get there either as quickly or as hard. Like I don't hit burnout as hard. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it's less rock bottomy, you know what I mean? When I have healthy rhythms in my life, because we're always going to have hard seasons, right? We're always going to have like the summer seasons in life where everything feels good. And then there's going to be like the winter seasons where things just kind of suck and life is what it is. Like life isn't perfect. We all know that, right? We're adults. We get it. Life sucks sometimes. But having the healthy rhythms is really helpful when winter comes to be proactive against it. But if you are in a season of burnout right now, I think like thinking of those irreducible minimums is still extremely important, obviously. So I think like listing out those things in your life is really important. But then what you need to do is press pause on everything else and focus on those irreducible minimums. And I know that there are things where like when I say press pause on everything else, you're like, yeah, no, I can't do that. Like, I get it. But that doesn't mean that you can't ask for help in them. So say like your irreducible minimums is, I don't know, spending time with your kids. Okay. Like you've got to spend this much time every day with your kids. And you have so much editing on your plate right now that you feel like you have zero time to give to your family. Okay. What's most important? It's you spending time with your family, right? Like those clients can either wait for their photos. And if you have like, okay, say it's 1 month, right? You don't have to get it back on week 2. You can give it back to them in a month. It's okay to wait to be able to spend time with your family. Or, like I said, you ask for help. You outsource. You tell a friend that you're really struggling right now and ask them if they can come over and help you with something. Friends are friends. Community is community for a reason. And I would go and do that for any of my friends who told me that they were really, really struggling. And I know they would do it for me too. So building friendships in your life that like look like that are really important too. But again, like I know that if you're in a season of burnout, it really can feel so heavy. So like I said, I am really, really sorry if you are walking through that right now. But I think it's super important to like be active in it and not allow yourself to just like grit your teeth and get through it because you know it's going to be, you know, going away one day. So like I might as well just put my head down and get through it. No, like ask for help, raise your hand, tell your husband or your significant other or your, you know, wife or whatever, like tell them you need help and whatever that help might look like. But like I said, working through the irreducible minimums and then maybe telling them like, these are the things I need to have in my life and telling a friend like to hold you accountable. These are the things I've got to have in my schedule. And then kind of go from there. But yeah, I don't know if that helps, but outsourcing isn't bad if you're in that season. Outsource if you need it. Ask for help. Okay, next one. Oh, this is a fun one. Tips for photographers wanting to start working with local brands. That's exciting. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love working with local brands. Like I said, I do a lot of graduating seniors, but my second like clientele group is local brands. So I love them and they're so fun. I think they're really fun because they can be a little bit more, not that my senior shoots aren't creative, but when you post one type of senior shoot, then I get a lot more clients of that senior shoot, right? Or that type of them. And so I tend to like have a lot of the same kind of clients when it comes to my seniors, but with brands, I have them all over the board. So it's kind of more of like a creative outlet for me to be able to work with local brands and it's really fun. So I'm excited for you as you get into it. I wrote down a couple notes for this one, but the first one is you need to pitch yourself. So what that means is you are sending, hey, I am blah, blah, blah. I'm a photographer based in blah, blah, blah. And I specifically would love to work with you, put the brand name. And then what I usually do is go on their website and pick out some keywords from their vision or their about me section. And you say, I would love to work with you because I think you do a great job of blah, 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 fill in the blanks from their about me and vision. And and then just like attach some of your work to it, some of your portfolio, and say like, let me know if you have an opportunity for a photographer in the future, and I'd love to be considered. Here's the thing about brands though. Whereas with couples or seniors or anything that's more like lifestyle shoots like that, you are going to post it on Instagram and tag them, and they're going to repost it. And then more and more people find you, right? They tag you, they post and tag you and are like, oh my gosh, I loved Alex. Like she was such a great photographer. And then other people follow you. Brands don't do that. So working with brands is so fun and I love it, but it's also harder on the marketing side of things. So when you pitch yourself, you need to know that you're pitching yourself, and so are a bunch of other photographers most of the time, even for local brands. They get it a lot of the time, especially like larger local brands. So they might not respond. And don't allow yourself to get butthurt about it. Don't like take it personally if they don't respond. Most of the time, my rule of thumb is that I'm going to sit down and send 10 pitching emails. And I send 10 in hopes that I'll book 3 clients from it. And I might book less than that. And I might book more of that. And like, if I book more than 3, amazing. But my goal is like usually to get a response from 3 and then go from there. The other thing about working with local brands, and this isn't to discourage you at all, but it's just like really good to know going forward into it, is that sometimes they have a big budget, but the vast majority of the time they don't. So yeah, it just depends on where they put their priority. But because most of the time, if you're working with local brands and not global brands, their budgets are just going to look different because most of the time they're small businesses just like we are. So yeah, a lot of them will probably have bigger budgets than they originally tell you. So that's a thing too. You sometimes got to work with them a little bit, chat with them about what they specifically want, and then say, okay, for what you're asking, this is what I can do. But yeah, you just have to like be really bold and stand your ground sometimes and say like, this is what I do. Sometimes it is a little bit different with local brands or just brands in general, I would say. A lot of them will ask for your raws, and that is different than the world of like more lifestyle family photography. So where a lot of the time photographers in our world can say like, absolutely not. I am not giving you my raws. What? Brands will just ask for them because they have in-house editors. So that's something you want to figure out with your business on like, what do I price my raws? Why would I give out my raws versus why would I not? Like being able to answer those questions to educate brands is really, really helpful. Again, especially because a lot of the time they're small businesses. Sometimes you might be the first photographer, depending on how large or small their business is. You might be the first photographer that they've ever worked with. So again, educating them is really important. And then other times they might be larger businesses that have just gone for more beginner photographers who maybe have given out their raws to them, so they see it as standard when it might not be for you. But it's not a bad thing to give your raws out to someone as long as you are, to clarify, to brands, as long as you're putting parameters around it and you're charging them what you believe that they're worth. So when you're working with brands, you want to think about things like usage rights too. So this brand, if you're giving them this raw, they can edit it how they want, and then they can put it on a billboard on the side of the highway. That is like, if you're going to do that, then your usage right should be pretty high, right? A lot of the time you can think of usage rights too, with like not just, okay, what can they do with this photo, but also how long that can they use this photo. So sometimes usage rights might be unlimited usage rights. You can do whatever you want with it. Sometimes it might be, it's only going to be a year that you can utilize this. So that's just stuff to think about. If you want, I can talk a little bit more about that, or maybe have somebody on the podcast to maybe chat through that with us. But yeah, those are some things you definitely have to pitch yourself. Oh, this was one thing I was going to say too. Don't count yourself out just because they say no. A lot of the times they'll say like, hey, not looking right now, or yeah, we'll add you to our list, and then they never get back to you. Something that I do is continue to reach out. So I engage on their social medias a lot over like, okay, say I pitch in January. I pitched them in January. They say we're not ready right now. I continue to engage heavily on their social media. I want to be the first person they think of when they are ready for a photographer. I want my name to pop in their head. So I'm going to comment on a bunch of stuff. I'm going to respond to their stories. Like a lot of the time, again, these are smaller businesses if you're reaching out to local brands. And so it's going to be like one person on their social media team, two people, and they're going to remember your name. So building like relationship with the social media person is really important in that way. And then what I usually do is reach out 6 months to a year after, and I'll reach out again and then, go from there. So there have been brands where like they've told me no, like they told me no when I first moved to Charleston 2 years ago, and now I work with them. So it just depends, and not everyone will do that, but like if it's a brand that you really want to work with, why not continue to reach out? So yeah, there's that. Oh, last thing on that, make sure you have a portfolio for it too. So if you haven't built a portfolio for brands, make sure that you're like setting up styled shoots that look like brand work that you can provide for them in that pitching email. Okay, next question. Hi, I love your podcast so much. Thank you for everything that you share. You're welcome. Thanks for listening. I was wondering how you get comfortable posing your clients. Okay, so this is like a loaded question because I do feel like being comfortable posing your clients kind of depends on your personality. And for me, I think I have a personality that probably leans itself more towards like being able to just feel comfortable chatting with people. But I also know, similar to what we were talking about with like moving to a new place and stuff like that, like some people are more introverted. But I do think I have talked to a lot of friends about this and stuff. So I do think I have some like thoughts on it. But one thing that I would say is, this is kind of what I was thinking about it, like pretend like you're an event planner and like you are running the shoot. So that's kind of how I function. Like when somebody books a senior shoot with me, I am planning that hour or 2 hours that we are together so that they know everything we're going to do. So I send them a timeline usually. So say they book a 2-hour shoot with me. I'm sending them from this time to this time, we are at this location. Then at this time we leave and this is our drive time. And then from this time to this time, this is location 2. So I'm like building that trust with them by sending them like everything. I send them the address, all of the notes that they need. So I've already built the trust with them. And then when I get there, I am making sure that I'm like really personal. I make eye contact. Most of the time I'll hug them. I'll introduce myself. We'll like start chatting on the way to the first spot. Like I try not to meet them like right at the spot we're going to shoot so that we can walk there and like chit chat and get to feel comfortable with each other before I'm like, okay, and do this and pose here and all that kind of stuff. And then by the time that it's time to start, in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm running this event. What's the first pose? Let's go. And it's okay that I'm bossy and tell them what to do in a kind way with a smile, right? But like telling them what to do is what they want. They want a photographer who's going to help pose them and direct them. They like love that. So yeah, so like treating it as if you're running an event might be a helpful thing just for like the switch in your brain. That might be helpful to help you feel comfortable. Like it's okay that you are the boss. Yes, you're the person that they're hiring and you're the service, but like if you are doing a portrait shoot, it's not necessarily like an event kind of shoot where like something is happening around you and you're photographing what's happening around you, then you're in charge. You get to dictate how this session goes, where you take your photos. Like you just take charge in a very nice way, in a kind way with a big smile, and they'll be good. They'll follow suit. The other thing too, and I did this a lot when I was a beginner photographer, if you're nervous about posing, then bring a mood board. Like pin a bunch of stuff on Pinterest and just screenshot it and have it like on your phone. You could even set it as your background if you want. And don't feel afraid to like show them like, hey, I made this mood board for you and I want us to try a couple of these poses. And that might be helpful for you. I don't think there's a problem at all in showing them the mood board because it shows that you've prepped for them. Like they're going to trust you even more because they see that like you've thought specifically of them. So if you're nervous about forgetting poses, feel free to do that. I think that like is a super smart idea. And then you can direct them based on what like pose you like on your phone that you're looking at. And then the last thing is just practice. Practice. Like I said, I feel like you feel more comfortable when you are directing the shoot and being like the boss of the shoot. So that being said, you have to know what you're doing. So if you don't know like a location that you're going to shoot at, go scout it before and think of specific things that like or specific like spots in the location that you can shoot in. So you're not just like winging it, but being prepared, I think can really combat like feeling uncomfortable or feeling nervous a lot. So yeah, I hope that helps. Okay. 2 more questions, guys. We are rolling through this. We got this. Okay. Should I put my pricing on my website for shoots? That's a good question. I feel like everybody goes back and forth with this. So honestly, I think it's a personal preference. What I have learned with putting pricing on like your website or your contact form is that you don't get ghosted as much because like if someone's reaching out to you and they're like, yeah, I have a shoot and my budget is $50, it's going to be a hard no from me, right? So like, I'd rather them just not reach out. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but like, it's more work for me. If they have to reach out, I got to follow up. I got to send them all my stuff, you know, and really like their budget's $50, they're not going to work with me, right? But if they see the pricing ahead of time before reaching out, then it saves them work. They can go find a photographer they need to find who might be in that $50 budget, or they like it saves me time and I don't have to follow up with them and someone who's not going to be my client. So yeah, I think for me, I usually put like I have a starting price. And the reason why I do a starting price rather than all my pricing is because it means that I can kind of change my pricing whenever I want. And I usually do that yearly. I don't do it a ton, but especially when I first moved to Charleston, I was kind of trialing some stuff out and it helped not having to go change it on my website all the time where it was very, very public. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. Like I said, I have a starting price on mine and that's been like super helpful for me and I haven't had any issues with it. So yeah. Okay, last question. And this one's a sweet question. I think Sue asked me this question if I remember right. So, hey, Sue, here's your question. When you look back on how far you've come in photography, what are you most proud of? And I'm not going to lie, thinking about this one was really sweet for me. So thanks for asking it. Honestly, I think the thing I'm most proud of is photo camp. And if you guys don't know what photo camp is, I know I mentioned it earlier, but it's my educational content weekend for photographers. And we all stay in an Airbnb and it's just like the most beautiful time. We have 10 photo shoots over the weekend, 4 educational speakers, including myself. And the next one's in October, but I had my very first one in April. And it really was like one of the most amazing things because again, community and coaching is so important to me. So creativity, community, and coaching are like the 3 pillars of my business and of this podcast. All the things I talk about, I want to fit in those 3 buckets. And photo camp is like combining all of them in a beautiful way. And I think like for me, people are so important. And so getting to see the connections and the community that has come out of photo camp has been amazing. Like multiple of my attendees have literally looked me in the eyes when I saw them last and they were like, photo camp has changed my life. And months after, people have told me that, and they're not like overstating it when they tell me like exactly what they're talking about. They've said that confidence has come from photo camp, like their confidence has been boosted. They've said that they had friends in the industry for the very first time because of photo camp, that they felt confident in their work because of photo camp, that they've realized they could walk into a new niche because of photo camp. So there's just so much that's come, so much fruit that's come from it. And it's a lot of hard work. But at the same time, I'm just like so baffled at what God has done through it. And I just like can't wait for the next one, guys. It's my favorite part about my business. And yeah, it just honestly, it makes me proud. Like seeing the connections that have come from it, even in my own life, guys. Like, yes, and the attendees have made friends, but like me, Cassidy, and Preston and then like a ton of others in my friend group, like that happened because of photo camp. So me and Preston and Megan were friends before that because we went to Color Pop, which is Marina Williams' educational content weekend. And that was amazing. And it was part of the reason why I was like, I want other people to have community like I've had through Megan and Preston and through what we got to experience at Color Pop. So I want to create an event that is different than Color Pop, obviously, because Marina and I are wildly different, but like at the same time can result in community like that because it's such a beautiful thing. So it's been amazing to even like invest in my own friend group and get to see more and more photographers join that too. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. And yeah, I want to know too, like, what are some things that when you guys look back on your photography journey, like what are you most proud of? So let me know, DM me what you're most proud of in your photography journey, put it below in the comments. Cause like, I really do want to know. I want to hear how different they are based on personality and different brands and stuff like that. But anyway, I hope that you guys have had a great time chatting with me. If you're editing, I hope you're done. If you're driving, I hope that you're pulling into your location. If you're about to start a shoot, I hope you do a great job. You're going to crush it. You're going to feel comfortable posing your clients. Anyway, okay, that was my episode for the week. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys next Thursday.